Okay, so the story I'm about to tell you is 100% true. This is a story about 3 students who are just starting out and they're in a flat. And these students, they learn a valuable lesson. They learn a difficult lesson about domestic responsibilities, let's say. So these students, they've done their first year at university and off they went. They got a flat. 3 guys, Nick, Mike and Tim. And they're living in this flat and they're discovering how to cook healthy meals. They're discovering how to be nice to one another, how to do cleaning, how to pay the bills. They're about to learn a lesson about rubbish. So they came back from university one day. It's the middle of winter and they're in the kitchen. They smelled a smell and they went into the laundry, and in the laundry the rubbish bag that they put on the shelf in the laundry had a tear down the side and the rubbish had strewn out. And the neighbour's cat had been into this rubbish. And they fixed it up, and then a week later the same thing happened again. And then the next day it happened again. And so these 3 students, they got together and they thought, how are we going to solve this? Now, the average person would go to the warehouse, buy a plastic rubbish receptacle with a lid, and that would be the problem solved. Another solution would have been just to close the door into the laundry and stop the outside cats coming in and getting into the rubbish. But no, these guys, I think they wanted retribution, actually. They wanted to get back at the cat. I'm sorry if there's any cat lovers here. So they stood in the doorway of the laundry and they looked across to where the rubbish was sitting on the shelf, because they would put the rubbish in the bag and then put it out at the end of the week, and it was sitting on the shelf, and they looked across from the door to where the rubbish was, and on the floor they saw a manhole about this sort of size. And then what they did was rather tricky. They took the manhole off, they put a large bucket down in the hole, and they filled it up with water. And over the top, they took a single sheet of newspaper and put it over it and sellotaped it down at the edges. When the cat comes in, makes a feline beeline straight into the rubbish, goes across the manhole, falls down, wet cat, out it goes. Teaching the cat a lesson. They went off to the university that night. They went into the library to use the internet, because that's what you did in 1998. You went to the internet, to the university to use the internet. They came home and they went straight to the laundry. What did they find? They found torn, wet paper, a whole lot of water around this manhole, and little cat prints, wet cat prints, going out the door, and the rubbish was untouched. Success! And they were pretty pleased about this. And they cheered and laughed and gnashed their teeth and thought, now what are we going to do now? Let's up the game. So they upped the game. They used some rope, a pulley, a large piece of firewood, a really heavy bit of firewood, another couple of bits of wood, and they fashioned this thing where the door was spring-loaded, because it had the rope going across to a pulley down to the firewood, so it slammed shut. Then they had a chop of wood and another piece of rope coming along, and they still had the bucket of water, and they had a piece of wood sticking out over top of the bucket of water, all hidden in the manhole in the floor. So the idea is the cat comes in, beeline, straight for the rubbish, falls down into the water, knocks the piece of wood, knocks the wood, knocks the rope, door slams shut, you've trapped the cat. That was the idea. They set it up, they tested it, it was good to go. Next night, they're out at the bush having some beers, and they came home 2 o'clock in the morning, slightly inebriated, maybe actually quite a bit drunk. And they weren't really thinking about the trap. They were actually more thinking about having something to eat, and then getting off to bed, and probably thinking about the hangover that was going to come the next day. But this guy, Nick, was in the kitchen making a peanut butter sandwich, and he heard this funny noise coming from in the laundry. And he walks over to the laundry, and the door's closed. and there's this scratching noise, and something shuffling around in there, and then he hears some panting, he hears some yelps, and there's this god-awful smell wafting out, and he calls the other guys over, and the three of them are standing at the door trying to listen. What the hell is in there? They pushed the door was jammed. They pushed it hard and they couldn't get it open. The mechanism they built, the pulley and the rope and the only piece of firewood was in the way. So Nick said, all right, look out, I'm going to kick it. And they stood back and booted the door and it was flung open. What they saw there was completely not what they expected. Because what they saw there was a massive dog, this big, this high, a Siberian husky, and it was wet. And it was staring straight back at him. And there was rubbish strewn all through the laundry, from one end to the other. And this dog took one look at them and shot out between their legs, skidded out with its back legs hanging out around the corner and down the path. It was gone. And they were left with a mess. And that was it. And that's how those three guys learned a lesson about rubbish duties, about trapping animals. And I tell you, the very next day, they pulled their money together, they went down to the warehouse, and they bought a plastic rubbish receptacle with a top end. That was the end of that. Madam Toastmaster.